No, you guys don't know the results. Nobody really knows the results. So it's basically just going to be like watching the same thing. But it does unfortunately mean that we are missing out on champion select from game number one. The downside is we don't get to see what was banned and how they picked it in order. The good side, Crumbs, is
We get to go right in.
yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Just go straight in.
So we do get to hop immediately into game number one here. It's going to be SFU that takes up the blue side of the map, where it's UBC going to be on the red side. And since we haven't really gotten able to go over picks and bans, let's take a look at the rundown of the two teams. SFU going with an interesting Nautilus pick in the top lane, Hecarim, Syndra, Caitlyn, and Zyra, whereas UBC, a little bit more of a unique lineup, Trundle top lane with Zach Kassadin, and then a Jhin Karma bot lane.
And both these teams have a lot of tankiness in the top and jungle, and the rest is just squishy / mobility, which is pretty cool to see. I'm very interested to see how KT Smurf lanes this Kassadin into Syndra. This could be a very difficult lane, although you really need a high caliber mid lane player to be able to punish the Kassadin effectively. So I think that the pick just comes from saying, hey, you know what, I can probably lane this into you, even if we have a Zac jungle. And that's going to be really exciting because if he gets out of laning phase, Kassadin and Zac can just wreak complete havoc onto the bottom lane of SFU and even the mid laner.
And this is just harkening back to I was going to say pre-champions, but pre-game number one when we were talking about just beforehand. Focus down on Demnus. He picked something that is a very powerful mid lane pick in the Syndra. They're picking the Kassadin, who, while he may, like you said, have a rough of a lane phase, will scale into the late game and become something to destroy him on. And the Zac ganks in the mid lane are also extremely, extremely potent. So already seeing the game plan that UBC was talking about coming into fruition just out of these picks.
And that game plan, I think, really just involves revolving around KT Smurf. You have the split pusher, and just so that we can mention what's going on, he's using Ghost so that you utilize the Hecarim passive, which increases your attack damage based on your movement speed, so that your auto attacks deal a little bit more damage, and that your Rampage, that Q, also does a little bit more damage. So it's just all about min-maxing here for Talk Play Love. And if you're Hecarim and you understand that you're not ganking earlier, I can respect this. So really tiny, cool adaptation to see.
We did see CJ being able to put a ward down at that blue buff, so he has spotted out that Hecarim is ghostless. So knowing that he may not be able to put a lot of pressure on the map early is something that Talk Play Love has already adjusted to. You said min-maxing the amount of damage on the clear speed from blue, but now of course UBC is going to know that without that ghost available, Hecarim ganks are really going to be less potent than they would have originally thought.
And I think that the only place that will really get advantages from this information will be the bottom lane, because it really looks like the only place that would be extended enough to be ganked. But Hecarim most likely just going to do a complete jungle clear here. If he can route back after doubles into the Krugs, he'll certainly be on a very happy way to level 6.
Well, both of these bot lanes have kind of picked up some very long-range AD carry champions and a lot of damage-packed supports here. The Karma and the Zyra are two very familiar supports we've seen, as are the Caitlyn and Jhin in that matchup. But the matchup mid lane we talked about earlier, you said this is going to be a little bit difficult for the Kassadin to survive early on, as Demnus has already begun some harass.
Well, the Syndra has to play with the information of Zac. As long as Zac is missing, she does have to respect him at least, because you can blow a summoner or two in this matchup. But it's just all about CSing and making sure that Kassadin is put behind in the CS department. So if she plays it well and focuses that, oh my goodness.
CJ getting extremely low. Flash for flash burn right there is unfortunately Nautilus not going to be able to pick up a kill, but that was a close call.
It's that corruption flash doing work early on for the Nautilus. He can do so much damage when he's up close to you. And if you play the minion aggro incorrectly, his CC will allow you to take even more DPS from the minions. So I think that's what allows him to win this trade. But luckily, Trundle's passive will allow him to heal on throughout the rest of this laning phase, and just should be fine and dandy.
Well, all the undertow damage, that one did not land in time, and Trundle himself has chugged up all of the charges of his own corrupting potion. We do see that means that it's going to be UBC's Kaza coming in from the bottom side, looking for this gank on Zac. The dredge line has already been out. Goldjet already has no flash, and they know this. The elastic slingshot goes out. CJ's coming in. Is he going to be able to put the pillar up in time? They might not even need it right now. A lot of damage and slows coming out from this combo, and first blood for UBC.
Just an incredible overextension by Goldjet. He's going to have to be downgraded now after this one, because he's losing a lot of CS and will most likely have to burn teleport to make it back here. But great decision from UBC, immediately noticing that somebody's out of position, you got to punish. So very straightforward, and this should give them more opportunities to gank top, because once Trundle hits level 6 and has that subjugate, the opportunities for killing Nautilus will be endless.
The subjugate tank buster kind of ultimate will be Trundle being a little bit more advantageous in that top lane matchup. So while first blood has happened across the map, the bottom lane has kind of just been this settling down of both of these teams kind of trying to shove out advantages. We saw earlier in the lane, Caitlyn and Zyra were the ones getting aggressive. Now it's Jin and Karma turning it back around. But you mentioned earlier that both of these kind of bottom lanes, they just kind of stay this way, where they're going to wind up bouncing off of each other at least for a while until junglers show up.
Exactly. It's all about how close they're willing to get to the supports, because if Karma catches somebody or if Zyra catches somebody, that's really when the aggression will begin. And Hecarim immediately responds with a sick gank onto the top side that will most likely get CJ killed.
Yeah, CJ winds up now. He was the one that overextended, and he actually had gone back and utilized his teleport, picked up that Tiamat, so now he's going to be without that to get back to lane.
And that is really terrible, because Goldjet played it smart and recognized the situation, knew that Hecarim was coming topside, and also saved his teleport. So this is going to give him a huge advantage into the laning phase, as you can see that he's already level 5 and only about 5 CS missing from CJ, which is a great spot to be in if you're playing that supportive tank topside of Nautilus.
And that may just be a circumstance of the fact that CJ, we mentioned from the side of SFU, CJ was the point that they were saying is the weak side of UBC, utilizing that teleport to get back in the lane and then capitalizing on the fact that he too had burned his flash in that earlier exchange top lane. Does mean that the advantage from First Blood has kind of been negated.
Yeah, and that's what you can see when somebody gets kind of labeled as weak. It's not necessarily in mechanics, but a nice gank from Zach coming in. He's not level 6, so this might not net anything.
Yeah, Kaza did wind up coming in. Does burn the flash from JJL there, and an empowered Q coming out from Karma, just not enough to take down the Zyra.
Barely missed by the slingshot, and that's just level 5 Zach. Now what that means is that anytime he hits 6 or starts finding opportunities into the bottom side, he's going to have a very easy time going for more ganks. But unfortunately, Hecarim is level 6 and might have beat him to it, because this could be a very deadly one.
Yeah, the top play love comes in. The Onslaught of Shadows is available. The heal comes out, as well as the flash from 735, but Hecarim is on him. That teleport did come in from Goldjet as well. Flash forward means the Matic is going to be able to pick up a kill.
Very nice gank from top play love, knowing to hold off on his Onslaught of Shadows until the flash from 735, pulls it off very well, but unfortunately the teleport was blown from Goldjet, so they're going to have to commit to the bottom side to really get this tier 1, or else they're going to lose out, and they're immediately trying to dive Karma out. This could be dangerous.
Hits level 6, the dredge line goes out. Karma's going to be able to get away, but Kaza's going to get the Cell Division passive popped, and with 4 members swarming all over him from the side of SFU, that's going to be an easy kill.
And Flubber does not get a remake. He definitely has to go back, and he's going to be still level 5, whereas Hecarim can certainly be looking for that level 7. They're going to try to push for this turret, which they're going to succeed very well, and really smart move from SFU to recognize that they'd have to commit for this. They go for it, but maybe in the top side, CJ's advantage could not be as great as what SFU just gotten. So this is a really good first 7 minutes from SFU.
Yeah, and we also see Demnis kind of rotating up from mid lane. You mentioned that the Syndra is going to have to shove in the castle and keep that CS advantage. Can she keep this tower alive from CJ? There's not a lot of minions left here, so one Syndra ball and a quick little dispersing of the ball winds up clearing out the minion wave, and they will keep their own tower alive for now.
And to top that off, they're also trading in a dragon here. So a massive swing for SFU in terms of objectives. Is that gone? Oh my god, that is an infernal dragon as well. Everything going their way. Right now, that is going to be absolutely amazing when you have a Syndra that's going to be building so much AP, as well as a Caitlyn and a Zyra, which is that supportive AD, support or magic support, which is this deals so much damage.
And now we'll have to see, what does SFU do to kind of keep this tempo up? Are they going to be doing something along the lines of swapping their bottom lane to the top side? As we do actually see Caitlyn making her way up there now. It protects that tower that they know is extremely low, but it also makes for the next objective to be extremely clear. So we already see Goldjet just not even laning at this point, just going into the opposing jungle and trying to establish some forward vision control.
Of course, you make that swap right now because you know you have a tempo window to make plays on the map until Jin is able to push down all the way bottom. So Goldjet right now has enough free time to wait for the waves to crash into the bot side. That can just roam around and exert pressure onto the top side. Unfortunately, there really is nothing of vision control for the likes of SFU here, so they will have difficulty in the sense of pushing forward towards objectives, especially the tier 1 top.
Well, we did see a couple of Riptides in the mid lane, just helping Syndra continuously shove that Kassadin underneath his own tower. Doesn't necessarily have the biggest wave clear amount in the world, but we are going to see CJ taking a little bit of a contested path back into that top lane here. Gets rooted up there by the Stranglethorns coming out from Zyra. Lots of damage coming through, and SFU continuing with this rotation game, but it looks like UBC might be in the area to respond.
UBC can respond, but Hecarim is there as well, and you have to remember that Kassadin does have teleport. They're going to try to dive onto 734, immediately succeeding and this could be very good for them.
Kaz is here for the turnaround, and the first trade is killed back onto Goldjet. Now CJ continuing to run for his life. Will wind up falling to JJL, but Top Play Love is going to fall as well, as now in comes KT Smurf. The Kassadin picks up a double kill as he just let the red buff tick away onto the Zyra. A triple kill now picked up for KT Smurf.
And Kassadin walks away with everything he wanted. He gets red buff now, 76 CED. He is just poised to carry this game completely, as his first recall will most likely include a roar at around 10 minutes. So very good collapse from UBC, and SFU just not recognizing or giving enough credit to UBC's ability to read the play and respond.
Yeah, and that was just all the goal going on to who you don't want it to if you're SFU. You spent a lot of time shoving that Kassadin in, and you've made great rotations on the map, but you don't respect the counter action. You mentioned before, not having as many deep wards as they wanted. They didn't know that they were about to get collapsed on right there. Not only do they give up the triple kill, but they give up that top lane tower.
And now the game turns into a completely different monster, because the carries have to group up together and really understand that Kassadin has now become a major threat in this game. The way that they itemize, the way that they play fights together, and the way that they spaced out is going to be incredibly important, because if he ever gets on top of one of these two guys that has no magic resistance items and what appears to be no semblance of an Aegis being built out of SFU, will mean that Kassadin will just wreak havoc on them.
And this is KT Smurf with the confidence coming in. Pre-match, he said that he can pretty much play whatever he wants. He might be playing something that the team needs him to play. He may be comfortable just going for that counter matchup here. It's the difference between the Challenger mid laner and the Diamond 3 mid laner. Yes, Demnis has some experience against some of the players on UBC. He's actually friends with some of those guys as well. But just the difference in skill between that mid lane matchup, being able to go into that disadvantageous matchup, keep that CS lead up, and now convert that into an advantage for the team.
Exactly, and his itemization is going to allow him to do that even more and really repay the team what gave him in the first place, because he's going towards an Abyssal Scepter, which is going to mean that Karma's extra little bit of damage on the backline is going to be really important with that Mantra Q, as well as Zac, who is poised to be the diving buddy for Kassadin. And that lineup of two people without any magic resistance on the likes of SFU will be able to wipe out basically the entire team of SFU, because if you remove the two carries, there's no damage there, and immediately we have them jump onto the Zyra.
Yeah, well, it looks like they might be trying to remove the support right here as the fourth shot comes in, and 735 winds up taking down Zyra. 734 will go down as he ran into Demnis, but the Ghost has been popped. There's no flash available, but there is a Void Walk there for Kassadin as he picks up another kill. And Top Play Love and Goldjet trying to kind of come in from their own jungle side do wind up running into Kaza, and it looks like UBC are convert a couple of kills into some tower damage mid lane.
And that's why I love the pick of Kassadin here. Even though you know that against a different opponent, the Kassadin might not make it out of laning phase, the fact that you recognize you can survive the lane just makes it work with the combination of this team so well. When you're dealing with immobile carries, immobile supports, when you have Kassadin, Jhin, and Zac, you can always find a fight, always create an opportunity to pick somebody off, and it just gives you so much freedom to move around the map, to take whatever you feel like, and what they're going to take is going to be the mid lane turret, which is the most important turret of the game.
And the big difference between UBC and SFU's prior attempt on the top side is UBC had 3 wards down in the red buff area from SFU, so they knew that the coast was clear to go for that pick. They knew that Zyra was in the middle of no man's land, and they're able to capitalize and, like you mentioned, convert that into a tower advantage off of their tempo. But now SFU is trying to desperately trade towers in that mid lane, but UBC, they've already gone back, they picked up some of their items, and they're here to defend just in time.
And not only do they know that, they're so confident because of the way that their champions work that Kassadin can always go in like that. There is not an immediate catch that will kill Kassadin. There's not a stun or a root that can immediately say, all right, you're staying here and you're going to die. There's Zyra roots. That's really nothing to worry about. There's Syndra stun, which is easy to dodge and predictable. And there's only just Hecarim and Nautilus, which blowing those major CCs or being in the range to utilize them to lock down the high mobility of Kassadin is never worth it.
And speaking of some mobility, we see Kaza Zac just leaping onto Goldjet and Top Play Love, just challenging them for their own red buff. 5 members strong of UBC moving around this map now. It looked like the tempo was in SFU's favor, but now by UBC, I'm not going to say that the entirely better macro play, but the better decision-making of where to be and where to defend at what time has led them to securing that buff and now taking the second dragon of the game, a mountain for themselves.
And they changed that buff taken into a dragon very well, because they push down middle. They know that top lane is built up. Check out that wave that now Pneumatic has to answer them to the top side. And what they did was they basically made SFU retreat so far into their own jungle by contesting that buff that makes them be in an unfavorable position when the dragon comes around, and they're gonna try to jump gold jet, but he should be fine.
He's out of mana, has to burn the flash, the subjugate is on, the curtain call comes out. Looks like they're gonna target JL in the way right there. They are gonna wind up blowing him up. Talkplay Love's gonna have to onslaught of shadows his little pony butt out of there. KT Smurf low in the jungle is just gonna wind up trading down at the Demnus. The Scatter of the Week comes out, one more orb and a shutdown does come across for the Syndra.
Oh, he almost had it, going real hypey there, knowing that he could use the R flash. Unfortunately, not enough damage there on the tail end of it. Still gets the flash out of Demnus, and it looks like UBC will try to commit for a tier 2, but it might be more than they bargained for as Nautilus TP'd behind them and is looking to engage.
They didn't see the Nautilus before. He still has his dredge line available. His mana bar is full this time. They're going to kind of getting out to 735. The rest of SFU is coming around the corner, and Talkplay Love picks up the first kill. A double kill goes over to him as 734 and 735 both systematically fall one after another.
A little too greedy to push for that tier 2, but luckily they are able to get the turret down and only 2 casualties. And it might be worth it in the grand scheme of things, as we can see a 1.6k gold lead, although Karsa might be going down. Kara, he will certainly be taken down.
Yep.
Kassadin as his only savior might not be able to be enough.
Well, he goes in, gets rooted up, but there's the Void Walk away, unfortunately, or Rift Walk away. Unfortunately, it is Kaza going down, so that mid lane tower that had been pressured by SFU earlier, they were trying desperately to trade tower for tower, didn't get it. Now they're able to get a couple of catches themselves, and they've evened up the gold counts here. They are only at 2 towers taken, whereas UBC, they've taken 4 of their own, but giving up all those kills, a 10-8 advantage has now put SFU on even foot.
And it was really good from SFU to recognize how far UBC had overstepped and just how much they can take in return. They're able to chain that overextension at the tier 2 into 2 kills, a tier 1 middle, and then invade into the red side, which allows them to set up all that vision for any red side pushes. And what that makes us wonder is, will SFU send the dual lane to the middle side and transition to top side for that tier 1, because that vision has to be utilized for something. Otherwise, if they have no plans of making offensive moves over there, it will surely serve no purpose.
Well, it looks like they have on SFU side sent Syndra, who is one of the biggest wave clear threats on their team, up into top side to try to get that wave pushing against their opponents of UBC. Pneumatic, in the meantime, has kind of set up camp in mid lane, as it is UBC who are trying to put pressure down in that area. Speaking of that mid lane matchup, Kassadin 4-1-1. Very similar CS to his lane opponent in Demnus, although the advantages did not come out as early in the game for Syndra as possible. Demnus himself is now rocking a 3-1-0 scoreline.
And as you mentioned the Kassadin and what he's trying to do, we also look at Trundle and the entire lineup of UBC. This is the point where they're comfortable 1-3-1-ing. 3 items on Kassadin. You have Trundle with Spirit Visage, Mercury Tread, able to escape most scenarios. And now it's going to be a matter of putting pressure on 3 sides of the map and then moving accordingly. UBC has to collapse onto the side that is currently giving into the pressure, and we just have to see how good they are at the vision control, because if they can connect lanes together in a river of vision denial, it will be nearly impossible for SFU to fully defend all of their turrets.
We also see them establishing some forward vision control by taking the Scuttle Crab on top side. Baron Nashor is not yet available on the map. It's still only the Rift Herald over there, but trying to make sure that that pathway is secure so that any of the rotations from SFU side trying to go for that last remaining outer tower are spotted out early. Maybe even just taking the Rift Herald buff here as just a consolation prize.
I think that this Herald buff will go to the Kassadin and to make him a stronger split pushing threat. We have seen some teams in the past attempt this, and it goes very well, as his 1v1 ability and his ability to collapse into a fight is just really stupendous with that extra little surge of damage. Although I think that we have to point out the elephant in the room here, and I got to hear what you know from messing with statistics so much. What do you think about Infinity Edge first item on Jhin? Because I am a very anti-fan of that.
So I've heard a little bit about different Jhin builds recently. The Ghost Blade, not necessarily as popular. I still think it's a pretty solid option. Jhin's benefit from the attack speed bonus was extremely limited when he activated it, and the movement speed really just put him in position for a lot of things. I've also seen a lot of the Essence Reaver build kind of going around, but one of the things Infinity Edge provides that Essence Reaver doesn't is those additional stats from Infinity Edge wind up getting put into Jhin's main bonuses. The critical strike turns into damage. Everything else, it's just raw damage. Those critical strikes on the fourth shot get even stronger. So while it's not as early a game power spike as the Ghost Blade provided, the Infinity Edge does provide a little bit more oomph, just at a slightly delayed time. So due to the accelerated pace of this game, I too am kind of interested to see why he went for that one first.
Would you not rather have seen a Dusk Blade of Drogdar?
Ooh. I mean, it seems good, but the fact that you don't have the stealth passive to really gain all the bonuses from it, it shies me away from it. I'm still kind of a fan of the Ghost Blade build.
Okay.
I mean, I could be wrong, though.
Well, we'll see how he does because he is even in lane or even in CS and for that matter level. So if he ends up hitting one of those big crits on one of the squishies, we could definitely see them get popped.
And the overall pace of this game, we've talked about a lot of tempo control early on. Both of these teams were a little bit messy, juggling the aggression, juggling the aggro that they had, so to speak. It's gone by about 5 minutes now since SFU has taken control of the game, or back in their favor. The Dragon has respawned, and we're going to see this is the next area of contention here. As Talk Play Love is going extremely deep. Actually might be able to pick up a kill on 734. The rest of UBC, though, is surrounding him, and if he is going to get rooted up here by the Jhin, this could be dangerous here. The Zac ultimate has already been burned, though. They're wasting a lot to try to just chase down Talk Play Love, and enough time has been bought that SFU now has shown up. The cavalry has arrived.
And UBC can't really turn very well because, oh my god, he got popped immediately from the Herald. Never mind, Kassadin is fed out of control. He has arrived.
And they spent so much trying to take down 734 and 735 that they did not have a oomph left in their lines to try to deal with this Kassadin. They are finally going to take down the backline and the Trundle from UBC. So it's actually a 3-for-1 favor fight for the side of SFU right now. The Hecarim is still just running around, staying
so
alive.
Much work.
But the Kassadin and the Zac combination just melts through the other two damage dealers here. Zyra and Syndra wind up going down. The Zac Cell Division does get popped here. KT Smurf might fancy his chances trying to go back in. Wants to get the Talk Play Love, but the Nautilus CC bot roots him up, shuts him down. Hecarim picks up a kill.
I can't believe Talk Play Love survived that entire fight, used all of his mana, all of his HP, engaging onto the single Karma, and turns the entire fight around. This is why he was mentioned as the guy that UBC wanted to shut down, and he just did so much work. It really was such a shocking fight, spread out throughout the entirety of it, just multiple micro fights going left, right, and center. But I think that Kassadin's goal ultimately got split up by seeing their carries be attacked as well as their own targets be so juicy in front of them that the Hecarim just, his underlying tankiness with that red smite, challenging smite, diminishing that damage taken by so much, allows him to stay alive throughout the entirety of that
And now
skirmish.
6-1-6 for Talk Play Love. UBC said they did not want Talk Play Love to get ahead. They did not want him to be able to transition those advantages into the later stages of the game and get his other lanes ahead. I don't know if they've actually followed their game plan now.
Yeah, that fight really just put things down the drain in terms of shutting him down. Hopefully the Hecarim does not have an easy time into these fights, because as long as the fights play out in the way that they did, spread out, sporadic, with not a whole lot of sense, then things will go similarly, because that's exactly what UBC wants to play as well. They want to Kassadin to thrive in chaos. They want him to jump on the single targets, whereas that's the same style that SFU wants to play. And I wouldn't want to be playing one of the carries here, because I'm sure that both of them will be asking for peel and receiving none of it.
That's exactly true. Both of these supports actually being a little bit more of the damage dealers on the front line, although Karma, of course, with the Inspire Shield, does have the ability to really kite and help keep some of those carries alive. But with so much front-loaded damage, as we saw on the side of UBC, Zac and Kassadin blew up the squishies. From the side of SFU, Goldjet and Talk Play Love eventually whittled down the back line of UBC. With so much forward momentum in this game, it's going to be really hard if you want to stand still or try to move backwards like Caitlyn and Jhin are going to do.
And the one thing we have to point out, though, for UBC here is that in that previous fight, Jhin was out of mana, so he was unable to contribute anything in that fight and would have most likely survived or maybe killed one or two more people had he had any resources to actually fight with more than just auto attacks. So I think that things are looking quite hopeful for UBC, just because the fact that Kassadin's late game scaling is just so bonkers that they should be able to bypass any amount of feeding that Kassadin or Hecarim receives.
Well, that fight did take place about 20 seconds before the Cloud Drake spawned, which wound up going into SFU's favor after picking up that ace. So UBC, they had the right idea of where they wanted to be, but as you mentioned, no mana on the side of 735 meant that he wasn't actually prepared for the engagement when Hecarim just kind of took it to the team. And now it's SFU utilizing that bonus move speed, making a move to the top side. They want to get that last outer tower, as Kaza actually might want to get caught out here. Does have to flash away from the Dredge.
They're making them react to the 1-3-1. As you saw Kassadin, that was his goal to cover this lane. SFU understands that they have to accelerate the game so that they don't have to completely respond to what SFU or UBC is doing. And they go for a 4-man, what seems to be a 5-man approach to the top side, which is a smart move because they're basically saying we're going to push for your inhibitor and we don't think that your carries can push just as fast. And this might turn into a mini inhibitor trading race, depending on what Jin does, but Trundle is sure to stay behind.
Yeah, well, Trundle actually might be using the teleport here.
No.
Teleports to the tower. The tower's taking a lot of damage. Is he going to complete it? He does right before it goes out, but Zach is already down. Cell division is not available. Jin has just completed his recall, and it looks like the curtain call comes out. Talk Play Love has dropped extremely low, but KT Smurf takes some damage down onto Demnis. The Deadly Flourish comes out as the Zanyas is burned here by KT Smurf. The Onslaught of Shadows comes back in, though, and Pneumatic's able to pick up a kill on the Kassadin. That's the Fed member going down from UBC, and now it's a double kill picked up as Karma and Jin also fall. A 4-for-none trade. The inhibitor goes down.
That's game. They can end it here. The cooldowns are tiny. What can Trundle really do? They can tank these turrets forever.
Well, Nautilus is extremely tanky. His shields are plenty, and he is whittling away that tower. Zach is available in just 1 second, but there are no Nexus towers left. Crumbs, CJ's doing all he can. Oh, it looks like Pneumatic flashes away. There's so much damage. There's not enough HP, and then Nexus goes down. SFU take game number 1.
No, the Rage quit after. What a game. What a game, actually. I love that ending. It's 2 teams